Hello, we're on another segment of the Over Kitchen Table series. And today we have Ida Tyree Hyche-Hill from Tyree Hyche-Hill Dixon LLC, attorney at law, excuse me. And we're so happy to have her here because she's an experienced lawyer here in Birmingham, Alabama. And we're going to talk today about getting our affairs in order. And with the top of the new year, it's really important to get our affairs in order. If you haven't made your New Year's resolution, we do encourage you to watch today's message so that you can get your affairs ordered. So things like wills, living testaments, advance directives, life insurance policies, that's the kind of thing we're going to talk about because, in this age and day and age, especially with COVID happening, what do we see? These GoFundMe's once somebody has passed and all of these different types of things. So we want to talk about these things and not just wait to the last minute or thinking it's an old age problem, that it's an end of age problem. So that's what we're going to be focused on today. I am so happy to have you here. Greetings.
Greetings. How are you doing today, Miss Massengale? Of course, I normally call you Symmetria. It is great to be here. Again, I'm attorney Ida Tyree Hyche-Hill, and I'm with the firm of Tyree Hyche and Dixon LLC. We are located in Alabama and Georgia. My daughter is my partner, and she has the Georgia office. So I'm just so great, happy to be here, and looking forward to any questions you have with me, and if anybody's calling in as well.
Oh, perfect. Yes. And if you have, for our watchers on YouTube or Facebook, please make sure that you make any comments or have any questions. And even if we're not able to answer them now, I will make sure that she gets the answer and will receive the question and we'll get an answer just as soon as possible. So the difference between like life insurance policy, wills, living testaments, these different types of entities and paperwork. And I just kind of from a general type of thing.
Oh, well, it's called estate planning.
Estate planning. Okay. Yes.
Estate planning. And also because here's the thing, and you touch on a very important point that I'm glad for us to address and make note of this to our audience. And that's end of life planning isn't an easy topic to discuss. Mm-hmm. And so just as you mentioned, it's often pushed to the back burner when people don't want to think about their mortality. Mm-hmm. And what's happened, as you mentioned, the coronavirus crisis actually forces the topic of advanced medical directives to the forefront. Mm-hmm. And so and along with lots of legal advocates, say it's really an important conversation to have now before you or someone in your family gets sick. And the fact that you're covering this on Table Talk today is really wonderful. So you may ask, what is an advanced healthcare directive? Well, what it is, just the advanced healthcare directive for, I'm talking about, if we happen to get sick, mm-hmm. and we are deemed incapable of making a decision regarding our health, or we're unfortunately, in a state of a coma or something, and your loved ones don't really know what you would want done. Mm-hmm. Do you want the plug pull? What do you want to do? So an advanced healthcare directive is something that helps you to clarify for your loved ones the type of medical treatment you wish to receive. If you're mm-hmm. unable to voice it yourself, if you're mm-hmm. unable to voice your preference, and that's important. And you don't have to see an attorney to do it. You can get the forms sometimes online. There'll be free advanced healthcare directive forms. And here you're deciding whether, if you're on a life support, you want to be taken off, or ask those various questions and you can answer them. Now, the other part of end of life planning is having a will. Making mm-hmm. certain that there's a will. And why do you want a will? You want a will because even if you've done some of those great things that you can do for your family, so they can know who you want to have what, and I'll talk about that later, but
Mm-hmm.
the will stipulates it. And the will stipulates it even if you happen to forget something and it is in the will, and families don't have to fight over it. It's important that you have a will that's legally sufficient, meaning a will that meets all the requirements for a legal will under Alabama state law. So if you prepare a will and it doesn't have that, then, there may be just some delays and some other problems that may occur, delays that would occur from certain problems when your loved one tries to probate it. So having a will. And number two, I like to tell people that if you're in a state in your life where you can go ahead and take care of some things outside of just saying, I'm going to let the will give that direction. And let me tell you what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if you have a bank account, then, consider having someone else. They don't have to be on the bank account where they are an active signer, but you can have them as it's a joint bank account, and maybe they don't have the right to sign checks unless you're unable to do so. Even in your savings accounts, and especially in your shareholder and stock and investment plans, investment funds, have a beneficiary on it. Check it if there's a beneficiary you have on it, and that beneficiary has predeceased you. Make sure that you add another beneficiary. Why? Because then it's going to be covered. It's going to have to be covered by the courts, because you don't have anyone designated to give it unless that person is designated in a will. Many times what I've seen is that for investment funds and mutual funds, those aren't necessarily indicated in the will, because somehow or another, maybe forget that maybe you need to do that, or especially if you don't have a beneficiary. So those are two things that I do suggest that we take care of, and that's advanced healthcare directives and wills. Have your wills done. And if there's anything you can do outside of the will, then do it, so there won't be any mistakes. I see the worst side of this. I hate it when I dislike it when I have to see families falling apart because of a loved one's death, because they're uncertain. They're uncertain what the loved one really wanted.
You mentioned a couple of different things that I want to bring back. So when you have a will, so should it be registered in the state where that person, the person who's deceased is? So does it matter, like, if that person is, say for instance, in Georgia, so the will should be within the state that that deceased person lives, not if it's in another place or not?
Well, usually when a will is written, then of course it has to have in Alabama, under Alabama law.
Okay.
Then the will has to have two witnesses sign it and be notarized.
Okay.
Now another state may have a different rule, a different requirement. So when you ask where is the will, what law? I like to look at your question being what law governs that will?
Exactly. That's exactly
okay. And so it's going to be the law of the state that you reside in where you have the will done. Now, but I like that question, because here's another good thing about making sure you have a will, because then while you're in your right mind, you can designate who would be the personal representative over that will, who would be, some of us like to call the old term, executor over the will. And that person doesn't have to be in the state you're living in. You're living in the state of Alabama, and there's someone in the state of California, you want to be the personal representative of that will under Alabama law. That person, because that person is designated in the will, that person has the right to probate their will. But guess what? They don't probate it in the state of California. They probate in the state of Alabama.
that answers so many questions, because even with that probate, because I was like, which state does it get honored in? And you just answered that question. So that makes a total sense. So another thing that I thought about, so people who are single and don't necessarily have power of attorneys and things like that set up, I guess who automatically does that, because I even just think in my situation, like, would my mom do it? I mean, I guess they would know my wishes, but I guess that would be the reason why it's important to have these designations and having these conversations. Or would that be, who is ever at the time, my partner or my brother, like who is ever there, because that's something you don't think about because it's always in a state of a family unit, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good comment, and because lately in my associations with young adults and millennials, what's
Yeah.
come up is, well, when someone, because young people are dying,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like you got a young person who, because you said significant other, who's not married but has a significant other, and maybe even been cohabitating with a significant other,
Mm-hmm.
but then they are not married. And now that family unit that you're talking about, that family unit gets involved, and that may be mother or dad.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, we got to handle all of this. We're handling all this. This is our child. We're handling all this. We're handling the arrangements. We're handling, getting his affairs out of this relationship, getting his things and or her things. But then you think about, what about that person, although they may not have been married in the sense of paper and before the court or pastor, they weren't married, but what rights do they have? That's what comes up. To me, that person is, and well, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that, but there are no rights there if it wasn't made possible by virtue of a legal act, which in that case would have been a legal marriage, perhaps. Maybe there were no rights if you want to try to say legally, but I like to look at things also from maybe a warmth perspective. And even when we talk about grief, sometimes we'll forget those people in the area of grief, those persons, because we say they're not in the legal part of it, right? So I know there may be some people out here who disagree with me, but I'm just saying that that's even more important why a will or something should be designated. Because if you have a will and that will states, you even want to state in that will what your wishes are, and maybe there are some things regarding that significant other in the will that you're not necessarily legally married to, that you put in the will, can't nobody do anything about it, as long as that will is a valid will in the state of Alabama. So I just want people to think about that, think about that, think about having those talks, because if your family listen to you with your talks, that's good. Think about if a plug has to be pulled and you haven't done the advanced healthcare directive, and then now you got people at odds with each other because one person said, oh no, I know he would have wanted this, or there, she would have wanted that. And then another one said, no, that's my child, and I disagree with that, and I know he would not have wanted that. So just end of life planning, as somber as it may seem, is so very important.
I remember for anybody who watches the show Insecure that is just ended on HBO, that was one of the things that one of the characters, Molly, and the other character, Natasha Rothwell plays, I can't think of her name, but anyway, she's the accounting, is in banking. So they team together to have that conversation with her parents, with Molly's parents, about wills. And because the character Molly, who's an attorney, was and it's spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't watched that episode, that because she was having a difficult time explaining it to her parents without, getting that comfort, the conversation shut down. The accounting kind of came from a materialistic money and retirement aspect, and that helped. She kind of mediated it, and it was really good. And so the accountant, that ended up being another thing that she started to do, because she started having these conversations about investment and investment planning and retirement planning on that end. But they were able to team together to bring in, the lawyer was able to bring in the estate planning side, and she was bringing in the retirement side from a financial thing. And that just is a really great mechanism, and talking to everybody's parents without that parents feeling very overwhelmed and, that kind
and left out, sometimes feeling like they're left out.
Exactly. I actually think that's a good concept and a good segue of what I was thinking. Like, what age should, I know you mentioned that, especially with people dying, passing away young, and as us millennials are growing a little bit older and entering our 40s, but yeah, like, that's what age should do you recommend some of these estate planning, advanced directives, things like that, thinking about life insurance policy? How does that play in with wills and stuff? Like, what should, I know that has its own type of thing, but and beneficiaries, but how does all of that interwork together?
Okay, very good question, because it goes back to what I said initially about making certain that as much as possible you take care of things where your family member doesn't have to 100% rely on that will.
Okay, I got you.
Because and that goes to beneficiaries. But the reason I say that's a very good question is because many times we forget to change or add a beneficiary when a beneficiary predeceases us in death. When a beneficiary on our life insurance policy predeceases, you will think that you probably say, oh, no, that won't happen. No, because life is going on. You have a life insurance policy. You have your mother as a beneficiary on it. Your mother predeceases you. You don't think about it. You just got the life insurance policy. You got automatic payment coming out of your banking account. And you're not thinking about, I've got to add another beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
And or the other side of that is you got divorced. And the now ex-wife is still the beneficiary on your insurance policy. You've remarried. And you never ever thought to change it. And then now the new spouse, who's now a widow, can't get that money because the ex-spouse gets it. And the ex-spouse is not going to let you have it when she got it. I say that, and I think you think it's a far-fetched example, but it's happening.
No, I can see.
So so those kind of things. You remember to make sure your life insurance policy has a beneficiary on it at all times. You make sure your mutual funds, all your investments have a beneficiary on it. And it's not necessarily a co-owner, but a beneficiary. That's one or two, however number you want to have, but have a beneficiary on it. It delays. So you have so your insurance money is going to go to whoever. If you have a will and there was no beneficiary on your insurance policy, your insurance now is a part of the estate, like you mentioned earlier. It's a part of the estate, and it goes through that process that particular insurance company has in terms of filling out forms, and then the funds would go into the estate. And then whichever way the estate is distributed, if a person passes without a will, then the estate is split in accordance with Alabama law during those lines of inheritance. And if they pass with a will, then it's going to go according. Like sometimes the will, it may not cover insurance benefits or whatever because they feel like they have a beneficiary on it, but they will have whoever gets the surplus in the estate. All else would be divided amongst all the children equally, or to my wife and all the children equally. That covers those things that you have that's not mentioned in the will that may come up in your lifetime.
I got you. And that's basically, especially for somebody who may have some different things, those things would get deducted from this estate, and then that's when the rest of the surplus kind of filters down.
Like an estate may say, I want have all the personal belongings in the household contents, or a house located here goes to X, and or whatever is stated in that will for that estate, that's what's going to be distributed in accordance with the will, considering it's what Alabama calls a self-proven valid will. Okay. Now, recommend with your properties, just as I said before, with life insurance policies, mutual funds, etc., with your real estate property, at some particular point, if you just feel like, well, I'm aging, maybe not necessarily based upon age, but just kind of make certain that whoever you want to have that real estate property is designated in the will or already in your deed. What do I mean? Well, the deed can be where you are owner of the property, and then it passes to someone else. So it just depends, you just see an attorney and have the deed written where it's jointly owned, or where you got who you want to have that property after you go. So talk with an attorney about how you want that deed written, or your heirs. And so generally it's going to say your heirs and assigns forever. So that means that it's going to go to your heirs, and it may be 4 or 5 children, which I've had happen. And then so one wants to sell it, 3 want to sell it, and 1 doesn't want to sell it because they're looking to maybe they can get in it. So once again, you turn it over in your grave. Sorry to say it that way.
No, I get it.
Sorry to say it that way.
No, I've seen everything that you said. I've seen either a movie or a real life example of that. You recommend with all of these things that a person makes a list of, like, maybe where all their life insurance policies are, their wills, their bank accounts, so that when you do decease, or things get, you become incapacitated, where you can't make your own decisions, that person doesn't have to look for everything, because there's a lot goes on. And having that experience, watching my father after, he died, after he passed away, and then we're trying to remember all the accounts and stuff, but he had already things set up. But I'm just even thinking for myself, I was like, I'm not even sure, because I'm such a independent adult, that some people don't know, my mom doesn't know, or my brother doesn't know all of these different things that I have going on, where all my different bank accounts and different things are.
That is so important, and so great that you bring that up. And I really want to say to young people, our millennials, our all Gen Zs and everything out there, I want to say, you got a lot of things going on, and you got things in your apartments or in your homes or in your condos, and your parents may not know where everything is. And I know you think you're invisible and nothing can happen, but you don't know. You always want to still be prepared, so that people aren't searching everywhere, turning all the drawers out, trying to find, and they may not find anything at your house, because I'm sure you got things electronic somewhere else, and they don't know where somewhere else is. So what I'm going to tell what I did a long time ago, because I'm a retired military officer. And so when I was in the Army Reserve, they had this booklet where you completed everything you just mentioned, all the things, where things are. And I literally used that. And that kind of set in motion the thought that it needs to be written down. I used it, for my family. We used together and just kept up with everything. And I updated it. Now we don't want to do, we aren't paper people these days, right? So put it somewhere electronically, safe, lock, how you can lock something on Dropbox or lock something on your notes, but let somebody know. Let somebody know how to access it. But people do need to know what where to find what's needed. They really need to know. They need to know the name of your insurance company. Or if you have everything in a safety deposit box, you have everything in a safety deposit box. Let me tell you something. The bank, unless the bank changes, the bank will not let anyone into that safe deposit box without having shown that you probated a will, or you've processed it as an intestacy, and you got what they call papers from the court designating you as a personal representative. That's the only time they will let you go into that safety deposit box. So someone else needs to have that key. Share that key with somebody else, or share with someone else where it's located. Okay, so because everything may be fine, you may have taken care of everything outside of a will. Make sure you had beneficiaries or co-owners on your stocks and bonds and mutual funds. You may have made certain that our real estate had an heir named or whatever, and your case your matter doesn't even have to go to be probated because everything was covered. But can nobody get into that safe deposit box to get the other stuff that you have that will show them everything, because no one else has the key. So in order to do that, they got to go through court.
I got you.
So just think about that too.
How early is too early to start this?
I think starting this when you know you have assets.
Okay.
When you know you have assets, you have a house, you have a car, you're doing some investments. Anytime you have something you own, or you have something, because like you got a car and you're paying for it, guess what? It's just going to go back to the company, that's financed it. So, but when you own, whether or you got money markets and all of that going on, you really need to make sure, once again, that there are beneficiaries on it, or designate someone who has knowledge. If you don't plan on getting a will, just make certain that you don't plan on getting a will right away. Just make certain you do that. I mean, I have a nephew, and he's 31 years old, I think. He's a professor at the University of Alabama. And I hope he's not watching this, but he probably doesn't have a will. He probably doesn't have a will. But I'm saying, when you start developing things, though, I don't care if you're 31 or 32. Go ahead and prepare a will that says what your wishes would be. Most attorneys are not going to charge you an arm and leg for it.
Okay.
Go ahead and prepare a will. And now, when you prepare that will, where are you going to put it? Well, you should put it in a safekeeping place where you and someone else knows where it is. If you got a lot of assets and you think people are going to be fighting over stuff like that, and you prepare a will, someone can find. I've had this happen. Okay. Someone can search for that will. People start looking for the will while you're in the hospital sick. If they know that you're terminally ill, some people start looking for that will and reading it. And if they see that it's not what they like, they destroy it. Oh, wow. So you always want to safeguard your will as well. Safeguard that original. Okay. And so I never undermine the use of a safety deposit box. Other people may have other ways of doing it. They may have a cabinet that has a key, that's a file cabinet that has a key, and they're the only ones with the key, and someone else in a number of things. But I use the bank.
that makes it extra secure because somebody can destroy that cabinet and take it out, file
Yeah.
cabinet, and then pretend like it's not anything there. Yeah, I really think that's really smart.
I want to give some good credit to my late husband.
Mhm.
He I had it a bit, it went smooth for me because he had followed everything that I had, recommended for us.
Mhm.
And in terms of even things outside of the will and all of that. So making certain, there are beneficiaries and everything. So that was I applaud him, God rest his soul,
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
actually listening and making certain that we had things set up that way.
I think that's really important, and actually, that and it's unfortunate that it was a good example of what can happen without it making a fortunate circumstance, but a good example of once you do it and things become smoothly, because grief and death brings out a lot of interesting characters.
A lot of interesting characters. And to be going through grief and then got to deal with things like that is double,
Yeah, yeah.
But so I just wanted to say that your family, your loved one will love you even more for it from afar.
Most definitely.
Yeah, for actually
Yeah.
doing good estate planning.
Yeah, it's very interesting who feels that they should deserve things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, you skip over everybody who is a direct, immediate family, but okay, yeah. So yeah, it's very, very.
I want to say something about the living,
Mhm.
the person who gets sick. And so here's a misunderstanding that I'm seeing a lot of. And so I just want to make that known on Table Talk.
Mhm.
And when your loved one gives you power of attorney because they say, I can tell, I think, and you probably would know more than me being a medical person. I think that when people, before they even get Alzheimer or whatever, there's certain things that kind of show signs that it could be happening, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, that it could be forthcoming, but we never know what's going to be forthcoming, but just certain things. And at some particular point, the person may say, a mother may say, I want to give you, daughter, I want to give you power of attorney over me because, first of all, I can't get around like I used to.
Mhm.
Now I'm in a wheelchair and I don't want problems with things happening. But I'll give you, I mean, you may be on the bank. I hate to use bank because they could be on the bank account and they can do what they can for that person then. But just various things, even with some decision making, they give them a power of attorney.
Mhm.
Okay, here's the problem that I see a lot of. The loved one passes, and the person is thinking they still have power of attorney to do something. They don't. So for the audience out here today, your power of attorney ends with your death.
Okay.
That power of attorney ends with the death of the person who gave you the power. The power ceases then. Okay, there's another thing. There's misuse of the power of attorney. The power of attorney that loved one would give in that legal power of attorney document, it'll state certain things that person has the power to do. Persons who are listening today, if you have capacity, but at some particular point, you want to consider power of attorney. When you talk with an attorney about that power of attorney, be very specific. I know, we have a power of attorney forms that have everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then you may say, I don't really want X or Y, So read that document. If your attorney doesn't go over everything with you, make sure they do. Read the document, and you may say, "No, I don't." And you'll have these options, and you with me, and you initial it because I want to make certain that if your loved one or whoever, one of these sisters of the brother that you gave it to, if they got a dispute, it's got your initial there by that action, and every possible power you could give, You may not want to initiate for everyone. You may do it X because I don't want them to have power to do that right now. Okay. What I see is the person passes, and then the person who had power of attorney think they still have it, and try to, go and get whatever, do whatever. Okay, that's one of the things. The second thing is the loved one lacks capacity. And what I mean by that is maybe they've been sick for a while, or maybe they started getting dementia or Alzheimer or whatever. They lack capacity. They lack the capacity to think and say, I want a power of attorney. But guess what I get? Phone calls. Attorney Tyree Hyche-Hill, I need power of attorney over my mama. And I always say, I'm sorry, you can't get power of attorney of your mother. Your mother has to give you that, and she has to request it. But she can't because she blah, blah, blah. I said, well, then it's too late. And so it's important that you know that that person giving, you don't go to someone and say, I got to have power of attorney over my mama. Your mama does that, or your daddy, or your sister, or your brother, or your husband. They give you that. They have to have the ability and the mental capacity to give you that power of attorney. If they can't, the only way you can get that is you got to go to court, and there's another kind of action to request the court to do that. Okay, not saying it can't happen, but it has to happen through the courts. Okay.
I've seen that with some mental illness cases.
Yes. That's a good point, because sometimes they don't realize that they're having some mental illness problems. And then when they really realize it, when the family member really realizes it, they kind of really know, then they're going to go to the court. And I need them to understand it's the same way, whether it's that or not. When the person can't give doesn't have the capacity to give it, then you have to do that. And then the person may have the capacity. I've had one instance where the person had the capacity to give it, but the loved one wanted it because they felt like that they needed to have it for just in case. But if that member who's ill and has the capacity and they want to give it, then that's because they decided they want to give it for those other various reasons, because it just makes life easier since they're not as mobile as they used to be. So when we think about that, it's not just about seniors, because in COVID time, with people getting sick and there's no respecter of age to it, and there's all of these estate planning matters, estate planning tools that they could possibly use. I think this was a good subject. I'm sorry I talked to you.
No, this has been wonderful. As we're closing, I just wanted to reiterate like some resources, like what things that needs legal attorney to be hired to get those matters approved and legalized, and certain things that you could just kind of do maybe online, downloading it from what websites. I don't even know which website. So yeah, those kind of things.
Well, of course, I'm going to say that you really need to talk to an attorney.
Okay.
You really need to talk to an attorney to make certain that you are, you're headed in the right direction. Once again, it's called estate planning. So sometimes I talk with people who contact me, and I do just like I'm doing now. I tell them, and I tell them what they may need to consider. And, so sometimes, you can talk to an attorney and they'll let you know. Sometimes I just go ahead and handle it in a way like, well, is there someone you want to add to this? Those kinds of things. So that's why I mean that it's called estate planning. I think you talk to an attorney. I can't recommend any place to download or anything, but for the state of Alabama, I do recommend that maybe they visit the Alabama probate website for the county they reside in, and see the various things that they require. But I can't recommend any place to download.
You know, people are Googlers, so that's why.
I know people are Googlers, but I'm gonna let y'all be on your own with that.
No, I think what you said was very helpful because, you know, and it's really important to note that to find an estate planning lawyer, because just like all doctors and medical professionals don't do practice the same type of medicine, all attorneys don't practice the same type of law. So don't go to accident lawyers looking for estate planning. So where can you be reached if anyone needs to reach you for your services?
Okay, well, thank you for mentioning that, but I do want the audience to know that I was not on Table Talk,
of course not.
To secure business. But if you are interested in questioning me or something, then I'm at thdlegal.com. That's our website, www.thdlegal.com. And my office is located in the city of Gardendale in Alabama. And the office phone number is 205-285-5195. Recently moved from downtown, and I know it sounds like she doesn't know her number. It is new. It's Tyree, Hyche, and Dixon. Thank you.
No, I thank you. This has been so helpful. And again, if you have not started your New Year's resolution and you have not done any estate planning, this is the time to do it, because, you know, as the Bible says, no man knows the day or the hour, but that's about Jesus coming back. But that still applies to passing away, and you don't want to have a lot of confusion during a very grieving time, because so many factors, like even, you know, touching on the thing, if you're single and you have a domestic partnership, people, you know, maybe there was some contention between the domestic partner and your family. So that's even a whole bunch of extra mess and drama. So you want to make this time as, I wouldn't say beautiful, but as stress-free as possible.
Right. Good word.
Yes. So thank you for joining us today. It was a lovely, very great conversation.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay.